You've probably seen the signs countless times if you drive up and down Interstate 75 near Macon.
I speak from personal experience that I always sort of, beat myself when I pass the exit because I want to see this. And I think a lot of people feel like that.
They do, and once they get here, they say, similar to what you just said, boy, we should have just stopped before.
The here, in this case, is the Museum of Aviation in Warner Robins.
Tell me a little bit about this museum. Give me a sense of how large it is, how long it's been here.
It is covering about 52 acres. It's been here since 1984. It was started up by a couple of very active, proactive, I should say, generals, two generals. We've had about 500,000 visitors a year. They're proud to be one of the biggest museums in the Air Force, the second one behind the one in Ohio. So,
funded by the U.S. military then, correct?
Funded by the Air Force, yep. And the Air Force actually still owns all these airplanes here. They're part of their inventory, even though they don't fly anymore.
How many airplanes do you have?
85.
Andrew Bisco is the Heritage Tours Director and served in the U.S. Air Force for 28 years as a public affairs airman.
I had the privilege of telling the story of the Air Force to the American public.
You traveling around the country and around the world?
All over the world. Iraq, Kuwait, Germany. I didn't make it to Afghanistan, but Iraq and Kuwait were quite an adventure.
Inside 3 exhibit halls and scattered around those 52 acres are the greatest hits of Air Force military machinery.
What draws the most attention here?
I would say the one that we have that draws the most constant attention is the most rare airplane we have here, the Blackbird, the SR-71. It broke the speed record 50 years ago this month.
Right outside the museum's front door sits the Bone, or B-1 bomber.
It's a great big airplane. It's supersonic. It's in supersonic configuration right now. The wings are swept back. That's designed to make the airplane faster when it's going supersonic and less drag. So it's just a very complex airplane and a very expensive airplane to fly.
So by supersonic, how fast does this fly then?
About 760 miles an hour, just past the speed of sound. And that's pretty amazing for an airplane that size. Yeah. Its 4 afterburning engines are the equivalent of 4 fighter jets taking off at full afterburner. So it's real noisy.
The museum also highlights the men who flew those aircraft into harm's way.
Endlessly fascinating stories, not only of these aircraft, but the men that flew them. Many of them diminutive, just badasses, for lack of a better way to describe them.
Yeah, as an example right here, this P-40 Warhawk was flown by then Colonel Scott, who retired as a brigadier general, right here from Macon, Georgia. And he brought this airplane in here. He helped put this history right here in front of us.
Each hangar houses examples from a certain era. In the Scott exhibit hangar, some of the most famous planes of World War II, like the P-51 Mustang, the MiG-26 Marauder, and the instantly recognizable B-17.
Everywhere I look here, there's something mind-boggling. B-17 behind us, we're in a hangar that's mostly World War II airplane.
Yes, this one here it's just incredible that we have one of these here because they're so rare. There's less than 40 of them around now, and there were 12,900 of these Flying Fortresses built.
The human toll of flying these in combat over Germany, well documented, but still difficult to grasp.
And it was very unforgiving too, because back then we didn't have pressurization in bombers. So you were risking your life, obviously, flying on one of these, but it got as cold as 55 degrees below zero in these because they weren't pressurized.
What sort of altitude were they flying at?
20,000 feet typically over Germany, getting flak shot at them, flak explosions, German fighters, and don't forget the Germans were the first ones that had jets. So we were getting harassed by Messerschmitts, Me-262s, everything. These guys took the brunt of the war to Germany in these airplanes.
On the other side of the hangar sits its equivalent for the Pacific Theater.
So here we are underneath a heralded B-29, one of the most famous airplanes of the 20th century, and a nuclear weapon.
For safety reasons, of course, it's a replica of a nuclear weapon.
This airplane is just a whale. I mean, it's gigantic. I mean, it is a staggeringly big plane.
Yes, for back in 1944 when this airplane was being built, they built 3,900 some of these B-29s in the Bell plant right up here in Georgia, in Marietta, Georgia. And this one here didn't actually see combat. It was built a month before the Japanese surrendered to the United States. But we didn't know when the war was going to end, so we kept building these. This was the first pressurized bomber in World War II also.
The hangar also houses some of the important restoration work that the museum oversees.
Yeah, and we actually have some folks right now working on the restoration of this C-47. This is the one that went through D-Day and the Battle of the Bulge, twice combat veteran.
So there's a lot of restoration work that's going on behind us right now. And the definition of restoration is what? Is it flight worthy or display worthy or both or one or the other?
So it's display worthy. There are no airplanes that at least I'm aware of in our museum that are flight worthy. They're here to rest for good, but they're put on display for a reason, to look as authentic as possible. We have an incredible cadre of volunteers here who completely and purely volunteer their time to restore these airplanes.
In the Newgarden hangar, the Vietnam experience.
This display is amazing in here. This hangar of Vietnam aircraft is, from a MiG to some of the very recognizable helicopters as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. It's something we're really proud of because it's an era that covers a very significant era for the United States and the military. This is our Vietnam hangar.
I'm ready for Bob Hope and Anne Margaret to step off one of these helicopters. It really has that whole period sort of encapsulated in here perfectly.
It does. It has that ambience. We even have some 1960s music that's playing over the PA system. And then right behind us is this MiG-17. It's very rare to have these kind of airplanes here because this was our former arch enemy here, the Russians, the Soviet Union. So we actually have two MiGs here. This MiG-17 Fresco that did a good job of harassing some of our guys over there in Vietnam. And then we have a MiG-21 outside over in back of one of the large airplanes.
Dangling from the ceiling next door in the Century of Flight hangar, the oldest plane in the collection.
We have pioneers here that we cover that are actually from as close as Athens, Georgia. Mr. Epps, he has the Epps Flyer down in the Century of Flight hangar all the way back to 1909.
And the aforementioned star of the show, the SR-71 Blackbird.
This one came to us in 1990 and it actually got brought down Highway 247 right by the base on a truck, a flatbed truck. To be a fly on the wall that day, to see that would have been something, but I wasn't here then. This is a very rare airplane. There were only 32 SR-71s built. They were built in complete secrecy from 1961 until 1966.
And the purpose was to fly over places like Cuba and take pictures.
That's right. The purpose was to fly over places like Cuba and North Vietnam and Russia and not get shot down. And these never did get shot down. The Russians shot at this at least 4,500 times and missed every time.
And the speed we're talking about here is?
Mach 3 plus, 2,100 miles per hour. This one here in particular holds the speed record. It's the world's fastest manned airplane still today. Broke the speed record 50 years ago, July 28th, 1976.
There is something for everyone with an interest in aviation in this massive collection. From hundreds of displays, many highlighting a Georgia connection, to piston and jet engines, MRAPs, and unmanned aircraft. All of that for a price you can't beat.
Because it's a government-funded museum, it's admission and parking are free. If you do sign up for a guided tour, the ones that I'm in charge of here, there is a small fee for that. Not a whole lot, $8 per person, give or take a few.
And if you've ever dreamed of flying an F-15, for a few $100s, you can get an hour's worth of classroom instruction and soar the wild blue yonder in one of the museum's flight simulators. It's easy to spend the whole day here, immersing yourself in everything Air Force.
It gives reflection for those of us who did not serve, who have not been in military environments, of the logistics, of the creativity, of the organization of the United States Air Force is mind-boggling.
Yeah, thanks. It's one of these museums where we try to tell people about what's behind the curtain, the operational curtain of the Air Force. The Cold War all the way back to World War I with this biplane above us here, right to this F-15 behind us, and then the drone above too. The overview of the history, but the people that made that history too.
For Georgia Public Broadcasting, I'm Jeff Hullinger.